Welcome to Defining Success. Um, it's like there couldn't be a better person to be speaking with. Nancy Easton knows a thing or two about success, and this is going to be just a conversation full of so much good chunks of information. I have been, Nancy, looking forward to this for a long time. I don't even know, like, there's so much I want to talk to you about that I'm not sure. We may have to do another episode, but
you might bore the listeners. But okay.
I don't think so. So let me just introduce you.
Great.
Nancy Easton, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Of course.
It's so great. It's an honor to have you here. And before we get into it, I thought I would just jump in and read your bio just to give everyone a little background.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Here we are. Okay. Nancy Easton is the executive director and founder of Wellness in the Schools, a national nonprofit that works to ensure greater access to nourishing food and active play for children in public schools. Since founding Wellness in the Schools in 2005, Nancy Easton has transformed one New York City public school initiative into a national movement reaching over 1 million students in 2,000 schools across 5 states. Nancy has successfully navigated large bureaucratic organizations to positively impact the lives of thousands of youth. Nancy has been recognized for her leadership and vision by First Lady Michelle Obama, chef food activist Jamie Oliver, and Ann Cooper, the renegade lunch lady. She has been named one of the top women in Metro New York food service and hospitality and received a 2025 Spirit of New York City Mayoral Impact Award and a 2025 Hunter Food Policy Changemaker Award. Nancy earned a Master's of Education from Bank Street College and a Bachelor of Arts from Princeton University, where she was a 3-sport athlete and earned 11 varsity letters. A mother of 3, Will, Sadie, and Zane. A competitive triathlete, Nancy brings the same energy and discipline she models at home to her mission of creating healthier schools nationwide. When she's not posting miles on Strava, she can be found on a city bike in New York City, riding to meetings from the Bronx to Brooklyn.
I think you made a little twist on that because you definitely brought tears to my eyes. That was so cute. Thank you.
I mean, so I just, before we jump
into it. You named my children, which I don't have in my bio. That was it.
I did. And I had to, because just in full transparency for everyone, when I had in the pre-interview questionnaire, I asked Nancy 3 of her greatest successes. And of course, she listed her children, one of each being a great success. So thank you for being here. And, I'm going to stop talking in a moment and hand the mic over to you. I was like, where do I want to begin? There's so much here. I share so many similar passions with you, Nancy, and it is hard to know where to begin. However, when having the honor of speaking to someone who's done as amazing amount of fantastic, important, and passionate work as you have, I'm so intrigued to know where you came from and how it all started. I know you grew up in Florida, and I know a little bit of your background, but I'd love if you're comfortable with just talking about what were you like as a little kid? How did you grow up?
Oh, thank you for that question. That's an easy question.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know why I got weepy when you did mention my children's names. So I was raised in South Florida, and I think we talk a lot about fitness, obviously, and that was definitely where it all began. As kids in the 70s, I guess, all we did was run around outside and play all day. A, the weather, and B, there was not a lot of that we didn't have phones and technology. Yeah, we had television, but that was kind of the last resort, particularly when you're in Florida, where you could be outside all day year round. So I think that's certainly where my love of outdoors and fitness began. My parents actually had me at 21. My dad was in college at the University of Miami, And my mother was, we lived in the married dorms with my brother, who's a little under 2 years older than me. I'm not sure if my younger brother was born yet, but ultimately they lived at the University of Miami dorms in the married dorms with three young kids. My mother worked as a cashier. My dad was in college. So, it was, I remember it being an absolutely blissful and wonderful upbringing. My mother and her resourcefulness, and my dad and his not understanding of, he became a real estate developer, but in his understanding of real estate and development, they found this teeny little home on Key Biscayne, Florida, which has now become this, a beautiful place for people to live. But at the time, it was this teeny little community, and I think growing up in a community is so important, and I definitely had that with. Everyone knew everyone. My mom would ride her bike to the beach with the three of us, on our bikes or on her. I think they had one car that my dad took to work, and my mother would like take the bike or walk to the grocery store, and then we'd spend our mornings on the beach. And it was literally bucolic, and I literally didn't realize how bad weather can impact you or anything else until I went to college at 17. So I'm not sure how much more you want about it, but about my childhood. But I was pretty aware early on of social injustice, for if I didn't think I called it that then.
Right.
But Miami is a pretty segregated town, and we lived over the bridge, and I do remember one poignant memory that I've shared before is that in 1984 race riots, our schools were closed because there were riots happening in Miami, and those of us who lived over the bridge on Key Biscayne were water skiing and playing and like, oh, day off from school. But I really remember, and I was young, like 13 or 14, that I looked across the water and I saw the fire, and I thought, and I don't, again, maybe kids are aware these days, but my friends were having fun water skiing, and I kind of felt alone in my thoughts of, those are my track teammates whose houses and families could be ruined right now, and I'm here like water skiing. So I definitely realized my privilege at a young age, and I realized the injustice in this world at a young age. And so to kind of, I think you asked the question to understand how I got to where I got today. So I really did think about these things, and I'm sure that I took to food because I was raised, and to fitness because I was raised in a home, and my parents, A, just by being young, but B, being who they were. They played sports they both ran when we ran with them when we were young. Like every family vacation, we would drive places, but we'd stop at parks, and my mother would have a homemade meal, and my dad would have us do relay races and sprints and stuff because I think to get our yayas out. I beat my brothers. Just want you guys to know that.
Make sure we know that.
Being active and being healthy was definitely a part of my upbringing. So my mother was fondly called Nature Lady by our friends because she had chickens. She was in a suburb of Miami. She had chickens laying eggs, and until one day the possum were trying to get them. So my dad built a chicken coop, and the possums got in and the chickens didn't get out. So we didn't have the chickens anymore. But she also, I've told this story before, during the Key Biscayne Athletic Club, they used to sell candy for the annual fundraiser. And one year my mother decided that we should sell citrus. So she sold oranges and grapefruit, which proceeded to rot in our carport because, by the time you get to the back. So that's why people sell candy, because it lasts forever because of all the preservatives. But so I saw these kinds of things. Again, Nature Lady, she'd make bran pancakes, and I think you noted Cara brownies. No one wanted to share my lunchbox. But these were things that they didn't preach it at all, but that's just what we did, and it seemed sort of normal to me. So when as I got older, I definitely was drawn to things that I understood: fitness, health, food. So that was my bucolic upbringing. And then I went to college in Princeton, New Jersey, where it literally rained every single day for the entire month of September.
It's not an uplifting.
What am I doing here? Yeah.
That's quite a shift.
I mean, my only experience with rain was literally like in the summertime, we'd have an afternoon thunderstorm, and it was a beautiful, cooled off the day, and then we go back to what we were doing. Yeah. So we didn't travel much as kids. I literally, from the morning until the afternoon, it was raining all day. Like, this happens?
Right.
So anyway, like I said.
Big shift. But I just wanted to Thank you for all that. And yes, carrot brownies. I was one of the few kids that also had the carrot brownies that nobody wanted to share. Um,
Whatever happened to
I
carrot? They
don't know.
don't.
Carrot just
Now
disappeared.
chocolate is in.
I know.
As much as we thought our parents were forward thinking, they actually were probably backwards
What
thinking.
happened? Where is carrot? Um, but I can taste it just talking about it. But going back to 1 second, you had mentioned seeing across the bridge and seeing the fires and thinking of your teammates. And when I heard you say that, it just made me think about why sports are so important, right? Because you had, because of sports, which I think you mentioned you played 3 sports in high school. Is that correct? Yeah. And so
Yes,
you had
yes.
exposure to different kids from different communities. And it sounds like that had a pretty big impact on you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Particularly, mostly on my track team. I played soccer in the fall, and then I played tennis in the spring. But then, I, I guess wait, spring was. No, I can't remember. Oh, I broke my wrist playing tennis, so I went out for the track team, and that's how I
Ah,
ended up being a
okay.
runner. So I'm like, what am I going to do in the spring? So yeah, particularly on my track team, I was fondly called White Lightning on my track team. Most of the other teammates grew up in the project, sort of right across the street from Coral Gables High,
Mm.
and we would my brother and I would drop off our friends at school at their homes, and then again we would then drive over this bridge, and I didn't quite understand why their homes looked a certain way and our homes looked another way, right?
Right.
So yeah, I fully agree with that, and we know from our sons playing football together at Poly Prep, um, and really how sports gave opportunity to kids who maybe would not be able to get a chance to have an education like at Poly Prep, or we see it in college as well. Yeah,
Hmm.
I really I believe in the power of sports for so many things.
Yeah, so many, which we'll obviously get even more into as we get to later with the work that you're doing now and how you've integrated sports and fitness into that, which is just so unbelievable. But okay, so Princeton, and what were you studying while you were at Princeton?
Well, I always follow my heart. I was studying art history because I loved it. And also, my mother was an artist. So I think, again, it was
Oh,
something that I took to and I understood a little bit. Um, my mother actually went back she didn't finish high school because, she had the kids at 19 or she finished high school. Sorry, she didn't finish college. So
right.
she went back to college when I was in high school and she was studying art as well. So, I mean, I'm sure it influenced me. But I fell in love with a professor there and I ended up studying art history. So I did that I studied Japanese art, and then actually went and lived in Japan for 2 years after I graduated from college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
What
don't
were
know if
you
that was
doing?
anything that you researched.
Well, I didn't catch that. What were you doing in Japan?
Well, there was a program at Princeton called Princeton in Asia, and
Mhm.
because I was studying the art and learning so much about the history, I really wanted to go and live that. And I'm like, oh, my parents were very supportive. Like, 2 years out of college, go do something while you're young. And so I lived there. It was supposed to be a 1 year program, but honestly, it took me like 6 months to even kind of get my bearings, and also
Mhm.
just being at that age, going from where all your only trouble in the world was like your next paper to actually having like real life problems or real life challenges. It took a while to settle in. So I ended up staying for 2 years, and then I traveled throughout Southeast Asia and Australia and New Zealand with my younger brother and sister who came over to see me, and then came back to the States. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Well, so the three of you traveled together?
We did. My brother is a surfer, still is. He's 58, and lives for the storms and the waves. Um, but so we took a trip being led by the surf breaks. So they first came to Japan. I was in Tokyo, and there's this amazing island off of Tokyo called Nijima, and we had to take a ferry to get there, and it was a big surf break. So we did that, and then we went Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, yeah, Uluwatu, like all these. We ended up in Fiji. So all these amazing surf breaks. Like he literally was following. My sister and I just, we explored the country and the world.
So
Through it.
great.
Yeah, it was really fun. My sister is
Wow.
actually 9 years younger than me. So she was like 16. God, she was 14 or 15, and now we look back and we're like, we can't believe our parents let us go with her. You know, we
Yeah.
went on. She didn't want to do this one hike in Chiang Mai, so we made her stay in the room and check while we went for like a long weekend. We're like, don't you leave this room? What were we thinking? Now that I'm a parent, it was horrible. Anyway, But yeah,
Here's
you can
some
cut that
food.
part out.
Here's some food. There's water in the bathroom.
Yeah,
We gotta
don't leave.
go.
You can just go get like the banana pancakes and the smoothies, then go back to your room. Chiang Mai.
Oh my gosh, but I'm sure, I mean, it sounds like an incredible experience.
Well, we talk about it today,
I'm
lovingly.
sure. Yeah. And your brother is still a surfer?
He's still a surfer.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, where is he based?
He's based in Jacksonville, Florida, but literally lives for the waves there and travels around the world, not just the country, but travels around the world for surf breaks.
That's fantastic. And where's your sister now?
My sister is in North Carolina.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
she runs a wonderful sort of glamping facility. It's called Sweet Jane's, and outside of Asheville, where you can go and stay, and it's off the grid. It's an amazing place that she built, and she has So of course we can promote that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to hear this full circle moment that at least I'm having right now, hearing you, because you all have this sort of adventurous spirit for sure. You're clearly all athletic in some way or another, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's
you know,
interesting. All of us I have an older brother as well. We're all entrepreneurial. Then I have a much
yeah,
younger sister, and just everyone has sort of the entrepreneurial spirit.
yeah, it's great, and it sounds like you're all in touch and connected still, which is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, family. Okay, so you traveled, you come back, and what's next on Nancy's journey?
So I come back from Japan, and so I went there in this program called Princeton in Asia, which is teaching English to adults. And then I went to school for education because I always wanted to be a teacher. And I was a camp counselor when I was younger, and I love kids and I love teaching. And I love that process of watching people learn. And so, or helping people learn. So I went to Bank Street College of Education and did my master's there. And then I worked in various education settings. I worked in a museum. I ran a school for 15 years. And then it was really through that I saw firsthand the impact of poor diet and lack of physical education on children's ability to learn. And it was really during that school experience of running a school that I had the impetus to start Wellness in the Schools, or the inspiration, I guess.
I do want to pause though on something, and before we get into that, because I can only imagine seeing what you saw and wanting to change and make an impact. But you just sort of rush over, and then I was running a school. Like, how did you get to that point? First, well, a couple questions. This is one thing I was perseverating on last night. When you say that you always wanted to work in education, is that something you really felt as a kid, as a teenager? Is it something you really did aspire to do?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I mentioned my sister who's 10 years younger than I am. So I was very motherly and sort of took care of her. And then I also was a camp counselor. I loved kids. I loved teaching kids. I loved being with kids. Yeah, I kind of, for the time you're in kindergarten, what do you want to be when you grow up? A teacher. And maybe that was like all women could say back then, or knew about. Maybe it was all the opportunities we knew about. I hate to date myself, but I always wanted to be a teacher. I did.
Yeah.
So that,
to be honest with you,
just that. I just want you to know that for all the listeners.
I mean, to be honest with you, and we'll get to that in a second, because to be honest with you, that's why I wanted to ask, because as a kid, growing up, it is true, that was sort of the default, like, oh, I'll go to be a teacher for a lot of girls in my class. I remember that. It was sort of like, yeah, I'll be a teacher. And I'm not quite sure how many of them really wanted to be. They just felt like that was
that's what they knew. That was their examples. I know. It's too bad that it was default, because it's such an important career. And it's also too bad that there's a lack of respect for that career versus other careers. And I've said that. It's sort of been a little bit of a stump speech of mine, that the education profession should be harder to get into, like medical field or law field or any field, and compensated equally. But anyway, that's
more.
Where we are. Yeah,
clearly, and that's why it's why I wanted to kind of stick on that for a moment, because it's really
thank you.
Quite impressive that you knew at a younger age it's what you wanted to do, and you went for it. It's rare to hear somebody really follow a childhood dream all the way through to the, especially nobody even knows where we're going with this yet, because where you've gone is incredible. Okay, so and also, yes, Rockette. I mean,
That's a longer story that I might not want for this the interview. I was a gabelette in high school, so there's a lot of dichotomy here. I was an intense athlete, but there was also this dance troupe that I loved, and we used to do the halftime shows. I was the captain of the gabelettes eventually.
Of course,
we did and there was like the gabelettes versus the cheerleaders, But we did among other things, we did a performance throughout the year. But we did the halftime show kick lines, and at the Coral Gables high school football games, and they were a big deal. Like lots of people would come. I think more than my son's college now. No, I'm just kidding. Well, anyway, it was a really big deal, and so I did that, and I literally wanted to be a Radio City Rockette. I don't even know how I knew about them. And I sort of buried that dream when I went to this prestigious college where everyone had much different aspirations. But then you get older and you don't care as much as what other people think. I'm like, I'm going to be a Rockette. And I actually thought about trying out again, but then I realized I'm not very good.
Oh gosh, so close.
When I learned, I always thought that if you turned one of the cut, I knew there was like you had to be 5'7", you had to be this, that, and the other,
right,
and that you had to be 40 or under. But then I learned from my nephew, who's a dancer. His dancing friend told me she was a Rockette, and she said, "No, you can be any age. There are people in their 50s." And I'm like, well, then I'm going to try out. But I took a few dance classes and realized that, I have a full-time job. I'm going to need another full-time job to prepare for this tryout. So I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's intense. It's a whole. It's like once you're a Rockette, you're a Rockette for life. I've known.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and my daughter and I go we used to go with the whole family. Now it's just me and my daughter. We have tickets for the end of this month. We go every year to watch the Rockettes at Radio City.
It's changed. That show's changed so much over the years, right?
Yeah. Yes and no, right? I mean, it's in a way, it's just like totally the same.
That's true. Good point. Okay, so you stay to Bank Street, right?
I
so
digress.
You go to Bank Street,
yes,
and then
once
you're done. But we did jump from finished Bank Street, and then you're heading to school.
So quickly on Bank Street. So I did my education degree there. Amazing program, and then I did museum education again with this combining of art and education. I tell young kids today that by the time you're my age, the narrative of your life is like this perfect narrative. But when you're in it, and you're like, where am I going? What am I doing? And I think it's an important message. But anyway, so at the time, I did museum education because I loved art and art history. And so I worked at the Guggenheim Museum at their children's program. And I did that for a couple of years. Wow. And I, again, always knew that I wanted to make a difference in this world. And I just felt like an ancillary position at a big institution, I wasn't doing that. And so that's when I went to to work in schools. And the truth is, the way that came up is, I was planning, I knew that I wanted to go teach in the schools or ultimately run a school. But I ran into a college classmate at a bakery on the Upper West Side, Columbus Bakery. It's not there anymore. I remember it vividly, and asked him what he was doing. And he was the first employee for Teach for America, founded by Wendy Kopp, who we also went to college with, and she's on my board. And her dream, people know what Teach for America is. He was the first employee, and he was leaving there as part of Teach for America to start a school. And he's like, and I was telling him what I was doing, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. And so together, he and I and the other first employee of Teach for America started a school called the Learning Project on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. So that was the school. And it was on 12th Street between First and A. And back when 12th Street between First and A the hearth was not in the corner. It wasn't hip and cool.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd come to work in the morning and I would see people who are had been up all night on drugs, going somewhere. It was
absolutely. And
the deli across the street was literally selling drugs to our kids in our schools. So it was a different time that's still rampant somewhere, but now there's like a fancy restaurant on the corner. So it's a different community back then.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the school, this is so interesting. What years did the school teach or house?
It's actually a story. It's a failure story, which I proudly tell now. For many years I was shameful and embarrassed by it. But again, there's a certain freedom with a certain age. Yes. And it was, I think 15 years. but we ran the school. It was a middle school, which is I don't know if I would do that over again. So kids would come to us from elementary school from all over. But truthfully, we took kids who kind of weren't making it elsewhere. So there was and that wasn't kind of what we planned, but I guess they gave that to the dumb young kids. It's like, oh, you take these kids. No one else wants. But there was test scores. I'm not sure they still have them in New York, but it was 1 through 4. They do still have them, 1 through 4. Literally, middle school readers would come to us not reading, and they were at zeros and ones, and we were so proud that we took them from zeros and ones to ones and twos. But if a school doesn't get 3s and 4s, they shut it down.
Right.
So there was a very bad ending to this, and it coincided too with my having children and my literally going home one night after a school board meeting with my late in the evening, knowing that my newborn, he was probably 9 months then, was home with my husband, but still being the mom who was breastfeeding this baby. And literally I had tears pouring down my face thinking, I can't save this school and be there for my family. We'd be like, I just felt, and this is important for so many young and older women, like, don't let someone tell you can do it all, because you can, but you can't do it all perfectly, and you can't do it all gracefully. It's hard. It's really hard. And that was a very hard time for me. I wanted to save the world. I wanted to save this school. And the neighborhood was gentrifying, and there was a school that they wanted to come in to sort of take over our school. And because our test scores weren't in a certain place, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, I have some guilt and shame. Like, could I have saved this school? But instead, I went home to breastfeed Will, and Will, and he seems to be a well-adjusted kid. So maybe he worked out. This worked out for him, but maybe not so much for the many children who we were serving. But I'm still in touch. Those kids are now almost 40, or even 40. And I'm still in touch with a handful of those amazing young children from those early days. But so I mean, I could tell you more about it, but I think that's an important story.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And it was hard. I was embarrassed for lots of years for that. And it weighed on my confidence, but I think it's important to know. And there were so many influences. It wasn't because we were bad. It was because the gentrification, the test scores that we thought, we were doing great with because we were improving, but it wasn't good enough. And also just sort of the lack of resources for children in that community and communities at large around the country, to where they didn't, they weren't well fed, and you need to be well fed to be well read. Right. So I think that I saw all of that. And again, that was the impetus for starting Wellness in the Schools. But after a tough time, I took some time off. I had another child, and ended up having 3, as you eloquently shared in the beginning. But I didn't go back to work until I was sort of pulled in. A principal from the Lower East Side, who I knew from that community in that very tough time, she went to run a school up on 68th Street called the Ella Baker School, a beautiful, beautiful school named after Ella Baker, the sort of unsung hero. And she asked me to come and help her, and so I became her assistant principal when Sadie was born. And again, that's where and I'm sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place, but Lower East Side is where I saw that line that I often share firsthand: the impact of poor diet and lack of physical activity on children's ability to learn. I'd watch kids come into school with this bag of chips and bottle of soda from that drug dealing deli. Yeah. And I watched them eat an overly processed school meal, and then a very sedentary lunch period. And I compared that. Thank you for asking my childhood, because I sort of compared that to my upbringing. I was healthy, and I was running around, and I had energy, and I'm like, why can't they walk a flight of stairs? So that was the impetus and the inspiration for starting Wellness in the Schools. But then I did a lot of practicing at Ella Baker. Is when I created some curriculum, and we were teaching a class. I remember we developed a class called Who is Food, to help middle school kids see kind of where food came from. That's where I did. Sadie was in a 3-year-old program there, and I sort of transformed her one classroom of food. And I was like, we can feed 16 kids, thinking that we could feed all of New York if I could do one classroom. So again, naivete, and I'm continuing on. So I'll let you ask your questions in the right order, but that's where I went next, to Ella Baker.
Yeah, thank you. And just, I do want to just say one thing quickly about your experience with the school in the Lower East Side, which forgive me, I forget the name of it.
It was
Uh,
called, we started off by calling it the Learning Project. We changed the name to 12th Street Academy. So that's maybe why you
okay.
don't know.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
12th Street Academy, because I think there's so much in that story you just shared. First off, the shame that you carried for many years. I think so many of us can relate with that. And the wisdom you now say, hey, now I look back and, you're able to speak about it and face it and see why that happened. Clearly,
hmm
there's no regret around any of that. And even more beautifully, you still have relationships with some of those kids, which is
Yeah,
wow.
kids and the teachers, of course. It was an
Mm-hmm.
incredibly. I mean, we were young and we were
Yeah.
doing this together, and we were
Yeah.
failing together, and we were succeeding together, and still close to many of the teachers. And actually, sidebar story: my student teacher, who then became a teacher there, an amazing teacher, and she's now a professor in Hawaii, was the half sister to the then, I don't know if he was a senator even or just an organizer, Barack Obama. So Barack and Michelle Obama had visited this school.
Oh my gosh.
I know the school that was closed down. So there are lots of interesting
Wow.
stories there, right? Yeah, he
A
was. I
lot.
can't remember at the time if he was an organizer or a senator in Chicago. Yeah.
Okay. There's that. Wow, what a story. And
Yeah.
and also not to gloss over what you shared about being a mom. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I really is something that I've been doing a lot of thinking about lately. A lot inspired by these conversations, and I'm actually hesitant to even say working mom because
hmm
you're just a mom, right? And I
Yeah.
can't stand the sort of compartmentalizing it all. It's like you're a mom,
hmm
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's very. Even I get emotional here as we're talking about it. It's a lot, and just thank you for sharing that. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to for people to hear your story.
Great.
And we're not even halfway through. But so now Sadie is now 3, and
Oh God, we've got
you're
20 years still to go,
yeah,
Marion.
I know. And you are okay. So you're now at
I'm at
this
Ella
new
Baker.
position, the
Sadie's 3.
elevator, and she's. How long are you here for?
So I'm there for, since I think before, maybe when she was a newborn, like long before she was 3. But they had the beautiful thing about this education complex, well funded, well supported, different than the Lower East Side School. It's called the Julia Richmond Complex.
Hmm.
And there were 4 high schools, maybe 5 in the building. There was something that was called a life center, and it was for babies. So if a high school child were to have a baby, their baby had somewhere to go. Not to encourage them to have a baby, but if they were to have a baby, there was a place for they could come to school together. So there's a baby
Wow.
program from 0 to 3, and then Ella Baker took over at 3, and then from Ella Baker went from 3 to middle school, to the end of middle school, and then there were 4 or 5 different high schools that the kids could choose from. One was Talent Unlimited, so there was a variety. Like if you were a musician or what have you, you could go to that school. Vanguard was in there. So there were. It was a wonderful complex. There was a
Wow.
pool in the building. There was a gym. It was an all inclusive. I was funded by I think sort of one of the big donors back in the time. I'm forgetting, maybe Bill and Linda Gates, but it was an amazing complex, and I felt very supported there. And it was a wonderful place. So Sadie's classroom of 16 kids. And I thought, again, perfect place to practice because it was incredibly diverse. It
Right.
was my child and the principal's child were actually in there together. And then there was the child of some other teachers, a guidance counselor, other teachers in the entire building, not just Ella Baker. And then there were children of children.
Mm-hmm.
So this was quite,
So
and from
great.
all different backgrounds. And I thought, perfect place to practice. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to show them how they should feed kids. And so we did, and the kids were 3, so they did not go to the classroom, but I mean to the cafeteria, but they would bring down. We had them bring just the milk and a piece and the fruit, and so or maybe you take 3 things. So they took 3 things, but then I subsidized the rest of it with. I had local restaurants. Candle Cafe, which is none of
Mm-hmm.
them are still here, but Candle Cafe was amazing. If people remember the only probably vegan restaurant in New York City, the best restaurant. They made a lovely meal for us one day a week.
That's so
And
great.
I raised money, but I did it on the cost of what the school meal was, which was like $2. And so that's all
Right.
they would take for this. There was a great pizza place called Slice Pizza. It's no longer here, but it was sort of the first pizza that did like tomato sauce with it was chock full of vegetables, and you could have soy cheese or you could have dairy cheese, and so there were some kids who were lactose intolerant. So we did pizza Fridays, and then the other days we had a volunteer chef in a makeshift kitchen prepare meals, and literally the volunteer chef would get a job, which was good for the chef, but not so good for me. So I would be trying to find a new
Right.
chef. And again, the makeshift kitchen. And I do remember vividly, I was pregnant with Zane. So I was sort of 8 months pregnant in March of whatever year it was, 2007. And I lost another chef because they had got a job. And so I couldn't even fit in the kitchen because I was so large. And I'm making, the food that was going to last my entire maternity leave. I was
Yeah.
freezing
Oh my
homemade
God.
baked chicken fingers, and I got like frozen. I know we want fresh, but I got frozen broccoli and stuff. So I had it all set
Yeah.
for when I left. So it was
How fantastic.
I know. So that was definitely the experience. So that was where it started, and fast forward to Sadie was at another school, but that's definitely where I practiced a lot and realized
Yeah.
and made a lot of mistakes.
You
But
know, sorry.
the teacher, their first field trip was to McDonald's. And that was when I was kind of like, okay, we can't do this. We can't start introducing kids to fast processed food at this age. So that's when I kind of came in.
Yeah.
And the teacher and I became friends, and we worked together, and I worked with her in another school later in life in my career. But again, I was seeing all these patterns that had to change.
So
one
cool
class of
because
16 kids going to change the world.
yeah, but what's so great about it is it's got such early stage startup vibes. What you just
Yes,
described.
oh my God, totally.
And it's like little did you know. At least I don't mean to assume, but I don't think you knew at that point what you were on the brink of taking on.
Definitely not. You can assume that.
Yeah. So it's like, how cool is it that you were able to essentially use this as your laboratory?
Yeah.
To build the foundation for what's to come next.
Yeah, and grateful to that principal, Laura Garcia, who trusted me and trusted sort of my crazy ideas, and also to the parents and I asked the parents to actually donate and pay what they can to raise the money for these lunches. And there were some like students who had day jobs and couldn't afford anything, so we made it, we worked it out, we cobbled it together.
And then really quick before you move on, just I've meaning to ask you this as well. I mean, I have my own thoughts on what the answer is, so I can't wait to hear yours. How did the kids respond to the change?
They were 3. They didn't know any better. They were happy. They were fine. They loved it. And actually, one of the families, I'm remembering now, they kept kosher. And so it was actually perfect because we were doing mostly vegetarian, and it worked for them too. She was so happy. She was one of the guidance counselors. They didn't care. They were 3 years old. They were so happy to be. I think it was exciting for them too, like sort of different food than what they were getting in the cafeteria, and it was fresh. It's coming right out of the oven that day. I mean,
Totally. So great.
Yeah, and I think we even did some cooking classes, which I'll tell you later what it looks like, not what it looks like now, but having the kids sort of make what they then might eat was also the school was very big on baking, and so we did that. There wasn't the connection just yet to that baking and then their school lunch, and they were 3, and so we would kind of stir the batter. So we would do these cute little things, but so that helps. As we know, there's research. If you grow it and if you bake it, and you're more likely to eat it. So we did that as well.
So great. Wow. Okay. So
again, imperfect, but when you look at it now, it's great.
Sounds perfect to me. Yeah. All right. So what's next? What happens?
So
now you're pregnant. Now you go on maternity leave.
So I went on maternity. Thanks. Yeah, there's another maternity leave in there again. Bumpy starts and fits. So then we were living on the Upper West Side. This school was over on the East Side. I would bike Sadie to school on the front of my bike until I couldn't anymore. We couldn't fit, and so then I went on maternity leave. And then when I came back from maternity leave, I guess it was spring, she started pre-K. On a whim, I put her name in a lottery. There was 18 kids chosen. I have good school luck.
Yeah.
She actually got into the PS 87 lottery.
Ooh.
So I had this hard decision to take her out of Ella Baker. And then I think I still worked there for a bit, but more practicing in Sadie's school. And
Mm-hmm.
she was at PS 87. And I guess then at the time, and I'm glossing over all the fine print of like starting a nonprofit, but I started a nonprofit because
Yeah.
Sadie was born in 2007. So 2005, I started a nonprofit with two other moms who we all had sort of different yet similar interests. It's three prongs, cook, coach, and green. And green at the time was much more about sort of environmental toxins and cleaning supplies that were used in schools. And another mom was very, very interested in that. And then the third mom was interested in food. And I was actually most interested in the fitness at the time.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm interested in
Interesting.
both now, but I came to this work, as you know, out of college as a
Mm-hmm.
three-sport athlete and was, as my childhood, fitness was definitely my thing. So the three of us sort of put those three things together: the heart, the leaf, and the apple. Those are the three icons. I forgot for wellness in the schools. They each went on different paths ultimately, and I stuck with it. And so we started the nonprofit to sort of practice and do this work, and to be able to raise money
Mm.
for these programs. And I think our first $3,000 was with the Row Runners Club before they had. I'll give Cliff Sperber a shout out here. Before they had those, what we now have, where charities can give people run a number for the marathon. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with this.
Yeah, of
You can
course.
run with a charity number and you raise X amount of dollars for the charity,
Yeah.
and in return for getting a number. So that was not yet built, and I credit myself and Cliff for he said, well, why don't you get a marathon number and have someone raise money for you? And so
Oh,
that's
that's
what
so
we did
cool.
for our first cooking bin, which cost $3,000. It was a sort of a bin to teach kids. It had all the ingredients, all the supplies in it. So I digress, but that was our sort
That's
of
so
first
cool.
fundraiser. And the point is, yes, that and we still get numbers for wellness in the schools, but we started a nonprofit to be able to raise money, to be able to sort of do more programming. And I can't remember what happened in the middle. I was breastfeeding and had lots of babies,
Yeah.
but basically, when Sadie started pre-K, so that was probably 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
We had her school, and oops, because I just dropped my cat. Sorry. You're okay. Because we know that chronic illness and
Thank
chronic
you.
illness
Oh
and
my
poverty
God.
are closely aligned. Yes. This was a stray kitten that came on my door right before Thanksgiving. So we know that chronic illness and poverty are aligned. We didn't want to just work on a pretty affluent school, or at least middle class school in the Upper West Side, PS 87, an amazing school. We didn't just want to work there, so we had two
Right.
other schools, and I'm forgetting how we even found them, through parents or through community leaders up in Inwood, and I'm trying to remember where the two other were, in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked in three schools, and we started doing the program that now is and I can share those stories, or I can just tell you what wellness in the schools is today. Um,
Well, I
but
am
yeah,
curious what that means when you say, and we worked with these three schools. Yeah,
yeah.
what did that look
So
like? And how did you
so
also, I'm really curious too, sorry, not to disrupt your flow, but how you, I don't want to use, I'm going to use the word, forgive me, it's not the right one, but convince them to work with you. Like, what was that process like?
I think that they'd heard about us, and it was either a principal or
Got
a
it.
parent came to me and said, "Oh my God, can you do this in our school?" Or a community leader came and said, "Can you work in this school?" I apologize, I don't remember, but it was they came. I do know they came to us. I think one of them was a parent, and that was
Got
the
it.
Inwood
Okay.
school, and the other was a community leader, which is exactly how we want this to spread, how we wanted it to spread. And we
Totally.
definitely wanted to work beyond. I didn't want this to be like a privileged program for all these kids in the Upper West Side, which is what some people thought that it was, because we
Right.
worked with Chef Bill Telepan, who was this, well-known, we'll call him famous in our world. He had a restaurant on the Upper West Side, and everyone on the Upper West Side knew him. And his daughter, this is part of the story, was in first grade when my daughter was in pre-K. So what we did in these schools is like, we're going to show them how to make healthy food, because we did it for 16 kids in this one little preschool, so a 3-year-old program. So we worked with the managers, who were very sort of forward-thinking managers, to create some new recipes and to then train. So we I'm trying to remember. I think we just did it at first, sort of moms who could cook at home, who didn't have a culinary degree, but we chose a few recipes, and the folks who work in the kitchen are the managers are chefs,
Right.
so they worked with us to
Right.
create a few recipes, and then we were going to showcase them at the parent teacher conferences, so that to promote them, because there's one thing, to your point when you asked if the kids liked it, there's one thing to make all these new recipes, but something else to then make sure the kids eat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we thought the best way to help the kids eat them was that we would go to the parent teacher conference, like maybe the one time parents came to school. We were like traveling saleswomen around
Yeah.
the 3 different schools, and we had a little table when they came in, and we to say, here's what your kids are eating in the cafeteria. You guys should don't pack your lunch, have your kids come with lunch. Well, this was in the Upper West Side. On the uptown in Harlem, they weren't packing as much, and
Right.
we wanted them to know that this is what school lunch could be. So Chef Bill Telepan walks in as he tells the story. He was late, so he grabbed like a chicken Caesar wrap and went to his to Leah's, conference, and then came back out. And the way he said that it was a very good sandwich, and he came up to me and he says, "Who's in charge here?" And someone pointed him to me, and there I was in like my plastic apron and my hairnet and my gloves, and I was like not presenting my best. And I'm like, "Hi," and he said to me, and I tell this story a lot. He said, "How can I help?" And
Yeah.
and those 4 words truly changed who we were as an organization. And I
Yeah.
say that lovingly about Bill, lovingly about the chef community in this country and in this city. They are a giving community. That's what they do.
Yes.
They prepare food for other people. And so he was so instrumental. And, we credit him for founding this Cook for Kids program, because we were still fledgling with the Cook for Kids program. But he really, I think it was an aha moment that he and another mom and I had. They were like, wait a minute, Marcella's in culinary school. Why don't we get these culinary school graduates or students who are in culinary school to help us in the cafeteria, as opposed to like us trying to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So that literally, and again, credit myself, credit Bill, credit Caitlin, whoever came up with it, didn't matter. We had this idea to have culinary school graduates, and that is when WITS and the Cook for Kids program really took off. We hired first. Yeah, go ahead.
So smart. It's just so smart. It's so smart. I love this story because it's just
it's
and-
simple.
and
Some of these
yes.
simple ideas, I guess, become brilliant. But So then we decided, I don't know when it was, we were going to raise money and we were going to go to 20 schools, because if we were going to make a difference, we couldn't just be in these 3 schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so 20, I don't know why 20 became this like important number to grow. I know it's sounding so startup-y. So the following year I went to 8 schools, and because we had volunteer chefs.
Yeah.
Every single chef who worked in the school was a volunteer. And that's another very good lesson. It's very hard to run a program on all
Yes.
volunteers. I mean, yes, have a volunteer program, but not maybe run the program with volunteers.
Right.
They were amazing, and some are still in our lives today. So I have one of the volunteers is actually my national program director. So amazing people who grew with the organization. But what they did was most had day jobs or had something else going on, but they would ask to take 1 day a week to volunteer with Wellness in the Schools. So we had 5 chefs in each school. We had 8 schools. We had 40 chefs. Yeah. Wait, no, I'm sorry. We had 8. It doesn't matter the numbers, but we had all these volunteer chefs. Because we had a different chef every single day who would volunteer.
Wow.
So and it was so startup-y. We didn't have any sort of platform for communication. We did have email. So at the end of each day, the chef would send an email to his or her group of 5 chefs. And they would tell, I helped the chef do this. I prepped the carrots. I got the salad dressing ready. Tomorrow you should do this. So that was sort of their communication all week long. And it was as much about sort of, telling what you did, but also talking about the humans that we worked with and that just became a little bit, I think, of who WITS is till to this day. Is yes, we're changing systems, and yes, we're working on policy, but I think that we are as good as we are. I know we are, is because we train humans and we work with humans, and it's people talking to people. How change happens is what I often say, and I have a story on that as well. But it's so important to me to share that, because I think that you can't make change in life without relying on human capital. And these cooks are in there working so hard every single day and just doing their jobs. And so, and we're now asking them to, instead of opening a box, to cook something. And many would say to us, "Oh, you're going back to scratch cooking." So many remember the days when they were scratch cooking, which made it very easy. And of course,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so many are grateful because they're now learning. We became this workforce development program almost because they're now learning these new skills. So anyway, this was that first year. It was a lot, and people, the volunteers would have to their job. They had to actually. Some of them had to leave us, and everything else. There was turnover, and I had, I was running all this without, with Bill and other volunteers, no paychecks. So, after that year, we decided, okay, if we're going to make this work, we need to hire people, pay people,
right?
And we need to add an education component. And I was always chomping to make sure there was a fitness program at some point, which came later. But just for this piece, we said, so we ended up raising money, and it was about $25,000 a school to be able to make this work.
Wow.
We were paying people hourly. They weren't working full-time jobs, obviously, at that amount. They were working hourly. And then but it was like August, and I was only at 19 schools, and I hadn't raised the final 25,000. I'm like, okay, just 19, I'm done. And so that was, and we had some great donors who said, use this 25,000 to leverage to get another donor, and so on and so on. So that was, that's your memory lane here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I do have a sort of a more business-minded question for you, something that I find so impressive when you just kind of mentioned, I still want to do fitness. It was going to be later. At that point, were you aware that you were putting the fitness stuff on hold? Were you still trying to not push it in? Because I just find that to be, I'm impressed by that personally. I think it takes discipline, because I know that's something that you were passionate about. So how did you know at that stage, besides not having the resources, I understand that, but you didn't force it. So I'm curious, is that just an instinct, that something?
I think it was just an instinct. I think in my gut, I knew, to your point about resources, the resources were sort of flooding to the cook program. It was, I don't know if it was sexy, it was well known. We had these famous chefs. I mean, we had Bill and others.
Yeah.
Because we had a chef adopt a school to give it, bring attention to it. So I think instinctually I just knew that this is where it was. I needed to go where the band is playing, right?
Yeah.
And go where the resources were. But I definitely knew that if we were going to fight chronic illness, and at the time we called it to end childhood obesity. We don't use that deficit language anymore. We talk about in terms of chronic illness. But if I knew if we were going to do that I always wanted to look at both sides of that coin. So I knew that we would do it eventually, but I guess I didn't think like, okay, my 5-year plan is to bring in the fitness. I just knew the resources were here now for food. And we probably did a little bit of quote unquote practicing with some fitness programming, but nothing full-fledged yet.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag that because I find it or highlight it, because I think that's really impressive, because it just shows your commitment to the mission and not your ego, right? Because I think, certainly, like, there could have been a part of you that's like, no, it's got to be all of this, or that happens, right? So shout out again.
Didn't think about it that way, but thank you.
And although you didn't get, 19, I know you didn't quite get there to your 20. But you did it. So, okay. So, wow. Now this is becoming something. This is really taking off.
Yeah.
Wow. And how old are your kids at this point?
So, I'm not sure what year I ended up going to 20 schools, but Sadie was probably on to kindergarten or first grade. And I had like a 1-year-old, a newborn with Zane, and Will was 2 grades ahead of Sadie. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was in it. And again, kind of probably, there's an expression like we shouldn't have regrets, but I think that it's okay to have regrets. And I think that at the time, I remember working only when they were in school. I had a baby who was running around with me, but then when they came home, I stopped everything and but I do remember like trying to get them to bed so I can go back to work. And you probably remember the same thing. And I'm
Of
sure
course.
many mothers, young and old, are listening to us today. I was probably so unhealthy, just, and also just unhealthy parenting, like quick, get off the boob, get to bed, go to
Right.
sleep, And so, and thinking in my head, like all the things that I had to do that night before the day started.
Yeah.
And also, fortunately, the chef's Bill Telepin, namely, works at night. So he was available to like answer my emails at 10 or 11 o'clock at night or whatever it was. But there were way too many 12, 1, 2 a.m. working hours
Yeah.
while the kids were sleeping. But again, with the cringe a little bit for me and the regret is that kind of wanting to get them to bed so I could
Right.
get to work.
Right.
But, you can have those regrets and know, and it's okay again,
Yeah. And hopefully
It was a
you'll
lot.
have lots of grandkids sleepovers someday in the
Yes.
future. We'll let them stay up all night and have
And I won't work. Yeah. So
it's
yeah,
all
it's a
full
lot.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, now what is happening now? I mean, now that you're taking off at this point. Oof.
So the following year, and I do remember, I want to give major credit to our best partner, which is the New York City Department of Education. They were then called Office of School Food. They're now called Office of Food and Nutrition Services. Sorry, but they at one point, the person running Manhattan wanted to meet me, and I was so excited. I was like, he wants to meet me, and so I got all dressed up and was ready to meet him to talk about this work. But basically, he came to reprimand me because I was doing stuff, rogue. Like I shouldn't be doing that. I should be talking to we worked with managers and all, and they were great, but it was a little bit unconventional. It wasn't following the normal, train of events. So anyway, he now of course, became an incredible partner and great friend, and after reprimanding me, and we were on many panels together, and we do a lot of work together. But so we ended up sort of working within the system as opposed to sort of outside the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, is when things took off. And another, a regret, of course, is like, I can't believe I tried to do it that way because I now work very closely with so many districts around the country, hundreds of districts, and have so much respect and value for those food service directors who I think probably at a younger age, I kind of didn't look up to the way I do now. And so, I'm having my Catholic guilt moment here on your podcast, but but no, seriously, like it's so hard to be a food service director in this country today and to feed kids well, and the ones who are doing it 100% against all odds.
Yeah,
very few dollars, untrained staff, food from our government, commodity food that is ultra processed. It is against all odds that these food service directors train their staff, get the equipment they need, and get the food that they want to serve children. And on now, $3-4. So those are our partners. And so I'm jumping way ahead, but there's a lot in the middle. But essentially, we started working closely with the district. And the districts today engage us. They will pay us for our work. And we have private dollars, of course, to subsidize the public dollars. But we partner with the district to help them to achieve their goals. And we create recipes that are scratch cooked, plant forward, and culturally inclusive. And then we train the cooks to prepare those recipes. And the third piece that I sort of glossed over, we also provide education programming to children and parents. And that was the second piece. Sorry, going back to when we did it all volunteers one year. The next year we said, in order to make this sustainable, A, we need to pay people, and B, we need to add an education component. And, after all, I'm an educator, and I think not unlike the fitness part, I think I knew we always needed that, but I didn't have the resources or the bandwidth to add it. So there's an amazing education component, which I do think sets us apart from a lot of any other program who's doing this work, is that they're called WITS Labs. They're actually a very happy place for all of our chefs because sometimes the kitchen can be very hard. You leave the kitchen seasonally, so 3 times a year, and you teach children cooking classes. It's where that kit came from, that $3,000 kit it's got an induction burner and a convection oven and mats for all 30 kids for one classroom, and cutting knives that I used to have one here they're plastic knives, but they're the same size as a it's like a lettuce knife, but the same size as a regular knife. And the kids make the beauty of this program, and I do give myself credit. It was such a great program that it's all the recipes that they make, they also see in the cafeteria. So they're making a tomato sauce. We just finished up our fall lab, which was tomato sauce. These kids are making it and they're like, this is delicious. We said, well, guess what? It's on your spaghetti, or it's part of this dish in the cafeteria next week. So you should make sure you eat your school meal. So it's really helping us to market the recipes in the cafeteria.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we just wrapped up a very large program with the city, which we may or may not get to. And in that program, we created 100 recipes, new recipes. And the labs then became those recipes. So we were teaching the kids jollof cauliflower. We were teaching them a pineapple fried rice. I'm forgetting now what all the recipes were, but they were all of these new culturally inclusive and plant forward recipes. So when they make it, as we said earlier, when they make it in the cafeteria, they're in the classroom, they're more bound to eat it. They're more apt to eat it in the cafeteria.
Absolutely.
So that program is now part of our, we're 20 years later. There are many different components of our program. And when I talked earlier about sort of working with humans, we are also very adept at adapting our program to the needs of that particular district or that particular community. Yes, we have our flagship program, and yes, we have our cook camp program, and yes, we have our WITS labs, and yes, we have our consulting program. But when we go to the district, we see what they need, and then we either take one of those programs or sort of merge those programs or adapt those programs to help them achieve their goals. And I think that is another sort of beauty of what we do.
And do you find, speaking of what the district needs, do you find that in your experience, is there an acknowledgement of the issues at hand that you are trying to improve, right? So are they seeing the some of the chronic illness being a problem with children? Is it being acknowledged by the districts and they're bringing you on to help with that? Or, is it a healthy relationship in that way?
Yeah. I mean, the districts who bring us on are really forward thinking and doing that for that reason. And then the principals, you hear from them more. But the food service directors, they know what is best and what is right for kids, and they bring us on to help them to do that. To start to, now everyone's talking about it, but to eliminate ultra processed ingredients and to replace those with fresh scratch cooked ingredients. And that's why they bring us on. Yeah.
I had to ask that too. I mean, how do you feel now that this is sort of a more accepted conversation to be having? Are you like,
yeah,
you could take it one of two ways, like, thank God we're finally here, or hello, I've been saying this for a while, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. I mean, I often tell this great story. I had the great privilege of hearing Gloria Steinem speak at the Teach for America 20th anniversary conference. And someone raised her hand and said, how do you know, they asked her the question, how did you know when you were making a difference? And she said, when I was no longer crazy. Yeah. And that resonated with me so much because, we were the crazy moms back in the day. We were the hippies. We were the ones who wanted to feed the kids, healthy food. We were, that was who we were. And now we're so mainstream. Like everyone's talked to me about it. And so I'm no longer crazy. And I think that is, that comment of Gloria Steinem's,
that's a great quote.
Right?
Yeah, that's really spot on. It's so true. Yeah. It's so true. So now you're in this space now where you are, at the forefront of all of this. And now that actually we and another thing we glossed, I mean, I know there's so much here. But,
I do want to talk about the fitness program.
That was,
so the story, Marion. Yeah.
I was going to say the fitness element. So when did you introduce that, and how did you introduce it?
Yeah, I apologize. I can't remember exactly what year, but we did have it at PS 87 because I remember that which is where Sadie went to school, that one of those early 3 schools. And we were with them for a long time. But in the pandemic, I will say after the pandemic, we dropped a lot of the more affluent schools. And we really started focusing in on, and again, affluent is the wrong word, but the schools in certain neighborhoods. But, so we're not there anymore. But I know this because Wendy Siskin, who was the first coach hire, is now our director of operations. And so she stayed with us for many years and is still with us. And she was really the OG of our coach program. So our coach program has taken many different iterations as well. But essentially, it started off as a playground program where we would place coaches on the playground, and they would help get the least active kids active and help prevent playground bullying. That was sort of our motto. And we focused on the recess time the same way we focused on the lunch time, because it was a time of day that every kid had. You know, if you did an after school program, or if you did a elective during the school day, you may not be able to impact or touch every child.
Yeah.
But if you're doing lunch and recess, you're getting every child. So that was sort of the idea, that was lunch and recess. We'd have a chef during the lunch period and a coach during the recess period. And they would have a healthy lunch, an active recess period, and then they would go back to class ready to focus and learn. And that still is our and we have of course an evaluation that shows that 58% more, if they were in the WITS program, they would go back to class and focus. So we have data to prove it, but that is really what we said we wanted to do, and we're still doing it. So that was the program on the recess yard. And we still have components of that, but we also did not want to replace what the school aides. We didn't want to do something that was already there. So then we began sort of training them. So we trained the school aides to do our programming. And you know this as a startup fitness person, it's like, it's a heavy resource to place a person in every school, particularly when there are 1,200 school buildings in New York City. So a lot of our growth, and this is from startups, is how do you grow and impact as many kids or more kids when you don't have the same amount of resources, or when you don't have a lot of resources, when resources are limited, how do you still grow? So we've worked with both programs, and as I said, from flagship to cook camp to consulting, we've had different models to address that resource problem. And so similar with Coach for Kids. We went from having a body on the field every single day or in the recess yard to training the school aides to do that themselves, to now training schools at large. So we have this great platform, Marion. It's called WITS Workouts. You can't get on it unless you get a sign in, but I think you can at least learn about it on our website. And that's a program that you and I dreamed up and talked about back in the day. And we looked at maybe even having one of your startups be our partner. We're now partnering with the fitness company Exos. And I think maybe your audience is familiar with Exos. They're a corporate wellness program. So whether they're training corporations or they're training the U.S. military, they train professional athletes. I think they do the combine for the NFL. They're an amazing, amazing Fortune 500 company. They became our partner. And together we do several things. We do professional development for teachers. So we'll have a summit every year in New York City that trains 100 PE teachers. So the ripple effect of that to then go back to their schools and so on. We do what we call a coach camp in each of the boroughs to also do trainings. It's a smaller amount of coaches, but again, going to them and tomorrow we're actually going to be in Staten Island doing a coach camp. So we have a very robust training program using the methodologies of both Exos and Wellness in the schools. And then we also have just launched a platform, finally, after 20 years, a platform which we had iterations of it during COVID, because we were sort of, how do we get fitness to these schools when we can't be there in person? And then we still ran it over the years, but now it's much more savvy. We think that you can sort it by grade and by age and by type of activity. And our goal is to have some professional athletes be on there doing a fitness break for the kids. So they're all fitness breaks, 10 to 15 minutes, from 5 to 20 minutes probably, to get kids moving every day. And even if that's their only time that they move. And we have done some live virtual. Now and we still will do that, but this is more of a library so that teachers can do it when they wanted to do it. Because when we're a national program, live virtual is kind of hard. It's like, oh no, it's 9:00 in California. Yeah. So, this is your world.
And it's that's a tough one.
But we're
on
really
demand
excited.
Is great.
You'll have to have me come back after we've run this for a year or so to see how it's going. But
oh my God,
it's now going to be available to our schools. There'll be, which we did last year, an incentive program. So the school that has the most, and it's not like competing against individuals. It's competing against schools. The school that has the most fitness breaks in the year or whatever the month gets a family fitness fun night or a WITS play day, which is a part of our coach program. So we have other components of our coach program. It's really blossoming, and we're really, really excited about it.
So that's
And
congratulations.
it started with you.
It started with you, and congratulations and thank you. And I love, I mean, that's just, yeah, quick memory moment of that's talking to you about that and how exciting that was and hearing your vision for it and to hear it come true is just, I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Many
I'm
fits
really
and
curious.
starts, as you know. We were trying to
Yeah.
find, a partner, really,
Yes, and it's not easy. And Exos
No.
clearly is the perfect partner. And
Yeah.
being able to scale these events is
Mm-hmm.
really special. And it's what they do. So
Yeah.
perfect. And I'm if you could just like, so talk me through the user experience of it. So if I'm a teacher, am I sharing this on a screen or how does that part work? Because this is so cool to imagine being a teacher needing something to offer to the kids. Is it like on their laptop? Like what part of how does that
Yes.
work for them?
Well, the good thing is that almost all the schools, even in under-resourced communities, have these smart boards. So
Right.
they do it on a smart board, and they can do
Got
it. They
it.
can pull it up at any point in time of day. And I mean, you ask a good question because you know from this world that if it's not user friendly, it's not going to work.
Right.
And so we worked after a year of having a platform that was a little clunky, maybe even 2 years. We learned from doing that, from that trial, that we had to make it very user friendly, so they
Mm-hmm.
can sign in, and you get your sign in number, your sign in information, and then you can go to any time, and you can put at any time of day, and also any type of movement. Like you may just need
Yes.
to calm the kids down, so let's do some meditation, right?
Yes.
And we have lacrosse players. We have athletes who come on and did the taping for us for these breaks. So it's really
So
great.
great. So great. Again, congratulations. That's
Yeah.
really exciting. And are you getting any feedback yet? I'm sure you are, clearly.
We're just launching it. So that's why it's
Okay.
like, I want to come back.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to hear about how that goes.
And the Exos model is the best coaching for your biggest goals. So it's just great to have that partner for us, as a coaching partner.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Wow. Okay, so here we are, and it's like, okay, you've done it. You've done it. As far as wellness in the schools, launching your fitness program is clearly a priority right now. Do you have any other sort of like anything in the not so distant future that you're focused on?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in my career, sort of all of those, I don't want to say smaller goals, but like making sure the fitness program, is successful. That is really, which is so wonderful, is our team, right? Our team of Wendy, who's still with us, and Kit, who's our senior coach, and they're really executing on those goals of the program. I mean, for me, it's still that North Star, and there's one other program that I do want to talk about, but for me, it's that North Star that there's just so much more to do, and to change this narrative on health and wellness in our country. Like we're not a healthy country, and it's not a good thing for me to say, because as a nonprofit with a goal to end chronic illness, I should have said, from 20 years ago to now we've ended chronic illness, but I can't say that. And so am I meeting my goals as a nonprofit leader? I do think, to your point, that it's not crazy anymore, and people are thinking about it more and doing things about it. And we haven't even gotten into the whole conversation of sort of, the GLP-1 drugs that are helping folks to lose some weight, and and it helps their markers and everything else. So there's that. So it is more mainstream. But school meals, I think everyone's opinion still of a school meal is something that's ultra processed and not healthy for children. And again, I have many examples out there that's not that, but there's still more work to be done. Those are the folks doing it against all odds, and sort of not against all odds, and sort of not the norm.
Right.
And I did want to speak about scratch work, which is something that I started in 2019 with these forward-thinking districts, 6 of what I thought were the most forward-thinking districts in our country, who were doing this great work. I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and said, I'm not getting any younger. We can't do this alone. So I brought everybody together one summer in New York, and it was called the School Food Innovation Lab. And we innovated for 3 days, and we left that experience with what is now called Scratchworks. And it's helping school districts move along a continuum of scratch cooking without judgment. You might be at, fast food or heat and serve, and you want to get to step 6 in the continuum. So that's what
Oh,
Scratchworks
cool.
is doing. And for the first time last year, we were able to hire a manager. It's still under the 501c3 of WITS. It's still an initiative of this work. But we have a manager who's really propelling this work so much further. And we're doing trainings around the country. And we have a summit every year. And we have webinars for food service directors to learn, if they have a question like, anyone have a pizza that's whole wheat and has, meets the USDA regulations? And we have a platform called Scratchworks Connects where they can connect with each other.
Wow.
The goal was to really try to have technology meet people because, I'm always about people talking to people is how change happens. So we still have an every other year gathering. And then in between, we have in-person trainings and we have webinars. So people can still talk to people, but we have this great tech platform where they can also talk via technology. So that's something that, we just hired this full-time person. So that's something that I'm definitely also very interested in continuing to grow. Again, others are doing it. It's for and by food service directors, which is the other beauty of it.
Right.
Whatever they need. And again, listening to our community, it's not what I want, it's what they need.
Right. But if I hear it correctly, it sounds as if you're bringing together people who are forward thinking. So joining those forces must be super powerful because I'm sure, true to your story as well, a lot of the more forward-thinking people tend to feel a little bit isolated on their own islands, like how am I going to make a difference? But you have created a resource where they now can join forces and see they're not alone. Is that a part of this?
Thank you. And thank you for making that connection. And I hate to, when you say you, it's the plural you, because it's really, this was what the food service directors wanted. It's for and by food service directors.
Yes.
And they have created this beautiful platform for each other. And they're over 100, and it's amazing for me to watch from afar. But it is certainly something that I am watching closely from afar and want it to be a very successful, because I think that is where the systemic, we could get to a tipping point. And I know I may sound naive or hopeful, but there are 15,000 school districts in the country, and there are a little over 100 members, and we call them participants, not members, because there's zero initiation fee. And so it's a great initiative. And but when you ask like what I'm thinking about, I'm definitely thinking about that. Definitely thinking about our coach program. And then, our national work, working, New York City is such a beast with 1,200 schools. We have districts that have 3 schools. So it feels so easy when you're working in 3 schools, but that work can really shine. We're working with 7 districts in the Mid-South in Arkansas and Tennessee. And these are very high chronic illness rates in those countries, but also the highest per capita of farms in this country. So to have all these farms but have chronic illness, so we're trying to really kind of figure out that disequilibrium and work down in the Mid-South. And again, one of our volunteers, Marion Williams, is running that national program now today, 20 years later. One of our original volunteers. So that's something I'm thinking about a lot. The national work, of course, just keeping New York at a great place, and then Scratchworks, and then the coach program.
Just a few things. just a few things. Now, okay, so thank you for all of this, and it's beyond inspiring. And in the meantime, one thing we haven't touched upon is your own athleticism. And somewhere along the line here, you did an Ironman.
Many years ago, but yes, every day is an Ironman, Marion. You know that.
Yes. But I did think, going way back to the beginning when you said there were 2 original partners, and you were the fitness person, you were the athlete. My first thought was, because you understand it's a marathon, and it's
very good
clearly
point.
you have proven to really understand what that means. But so you've competed in Ironman, and are you still competing? Are you still involved in triathlons?
So the Ironman was pre-children. I think I was maybe 30. So a long time ago. So 30 years ago, as of last week. And it was one of these things where like, I want to do one, right? And my husband did many more after that. I was like, I want to do one and done. So I did one. It was an amazing experience. But and then, having kids and juggling work, for many years, I didn't do a lot. I mean, I stayed healthy, but I did not do a lot. And it was probably 15, 20 years of mostly not biking, because that's something that, as it requires sort of long days out for me, at least. I don't like to just ride around the park. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
So I stopped biking for a
Yeah.
very long time or cycling when I had kids. I will say that my husband and I gave each other our Sirota bikes for our engagement when we got married almost 30 years ago.
That's
And
awesome.
I still have my Sirota. And when I started riding again, Andy fixed it up for me. He got electric gears and knew this and new components and knew that. And so it's the same frame. No one recognized it but me because it's been fully,
Yeah.
but I did, and to your story, I did I did the New York City triathlon. So I still do I do one triathlon a year, and
Hello.
I call it. I mean, maybe I'll do more, but I want to at least do one, and I call it my Still Got It triathlon.
Yes.
I love it, and it just sort of happened. Like, oh my God, I guess I'm not young anymore. And I did New York City one year, and because they shortened it, I'm much better at a sprint. I I won my age group. And so, and I'm leaving with my bike, my
Yeah.
Sirota bike, and some guy looks at me, he's like, "That's a relic." And I was like, this relic won her age group. And so I remember that story. So
That's so
yeah,
great.
yeah, it was fun. So I still do one. I mostly like to do the West Point Triathlon. It's run by
Oh,
all of
wow.
the undergrads, the cadets, whatever they call. They do a great job of it. It's a
That's
sprint.
cool.
I really am only good for a sprint because mostly because I don't have the time to train for the others for the
Yeah.
long distance stuff. But I really enjoy it, and I enjoy. Last year, I started to actually train. Like now that I'm getting my kids are older, I have a little more time, and
Yeah.
I'm training, and I'm also training because I'm getting older. So you have to train to do it. You
Yes.
can't just go out and go for a fun bike ride.
No.
And so I bring my friends along, and which is fun, which is a lot of fun. Like we last summer, good friends of mine and they would be annoyed with me because we had to do like an interval during our bike rides. But so yeah, I do one a year, and it's usually short. and
That's
I
so great.
and because I'm getting up in I have won my age group for each time that I've done these.
Okay. Keep going. Yes, absolutely. Of course you have. So, and I think, is Sadie working with you?
So Sadie, Sadie's my middle daughter.
Yes.
We have one of our employees is on maternity leave, and Sadie's in graduate school. She's doing her social work degree at NYU, and so she's back in New York, which makes me very happy.
Yes.
And so she's just helping us out while we have a employee on maternity leave. She's doing my scheduling and
That's so
a little,
great.
yeah. So
I love it.
you saw
Well,
her
and
name.
it gives her that. I mean, she grew up in it, so I'm sure it comes very
Yes,
naturally to her.
it was very easy for me to have someone, if someone's going to be my assistant.
And she's
It
going into
was easy
social
for me.
work.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. All right, so a
Mm.
couple questions for you. Let's see. Before we get to our final question, I'm curious if you have any advice to somebody who either is looking to work in education or currently works in education.
I guess my advice is every day is not going to be rewarding, and to just know that some days are really, really, really hard, but that those, 1 or 2 days a month or 1 or 2 days a week when you have an aha moment with a child and you see that child, you have a light bulb go off, know that those make up for all the many other days that can be really, really, really hard. And so
Mm.
don't give up. Also, I know it's not a lucrative profession, but if you start young and stick with it, I mean, there's a pension. You can.
Mhm.
I know teachers who have retired in New York and gone to work in New Jersey and still get their New York City pension, and can work and get a New Jersey a paycheck.
Mhm.
It's a job you can do well into late into your years, and I sometimes think I want to go back and be a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
So I don't want, so don't dismiss the profession, and I see fewer and fewer people going into it, and just know if you're
Mhm.
already in it that and you know this if you're already in it, it's not every day is great.
Yeah, yeah, I'm hearing it's not something that you get into for instant gratification. It's something, hearing you
Yeah.
speak about it, it's really something in you.
Yeah. Thank you. You
And
summarized things so beautifully. Thank you.
but to your point though, I as well know people who have worked in the system and have wonderful lives.
Mhm.
So it is, in that way, it can be rewarding, but
Mhm.
it takes time. It
Yeah.
takes time. Thank you. That's great
Mhm.
advice. my next question is for you. What, if you have any, what advice would you give to new moms?
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Don't try to be perfect.
yes,
Breastfeed your children if you
yes.
can, but if you can't, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself grace because
Mhm.
we can't do it all. I said this earlier. We
Yeah.
really, again, we can with lots of imperfection, and just to know that and to give yourself grace on that and to um, and to embrace that
Mm. Yeah.
and to surround yourself with like-minded moms. And I'm so lucky to have an incredibly supportive husband partner, so make sure that that's there in your life, and if it's not, fix it. Find another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Andy has been just a lifelong partner, or certainly with my children. I've known him half my life, and it's been a great half. And he's been there for me when I couldn't be. So, but really, mostly, it's you're not going to be perfect. Same as teaching. Not every day is great. And if you can, and this is where I have my regret. If you can be home with them, do, and you can
Mm-hmm.
always go back to work. You really can.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's easy for me to say because I stayed working, so maybe you can't go back if you didn't stay. But I did. I had a couple breaks here and there, but mostly I was in it. Um, but I've seen now some younger women who work with me who've kind of taken some big chunks off and are creeping back in when their kids go to school, and so there are ways to make it work. And I also think with the pandemic, there's a more flexibility
Yeah.
around parenting, but try to be, when you're with your kids and in your kids, be present in that moment.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't. And when you're at work, I was actually very present in work.
Yes.
I had a very good, for some reason, a great knack of, like, once I was at some place, I was focused in there and didn't really think of anything else. So hopefully there were no emergencies while I was gone.
Yeah.
But I know when I was with kids, my head was spinning. Like when you're sitting on the playground floor, it's like, and you know what? That's okay. Give
Yes.
yourself some grace there, because I needed that adult stimulation, so that while they're playing with their little toys, my mind was spinning a little bit. But being present when you're there, 'cause
Really good. Yeah. Sorry.
it goes so
Excuse me.
fast, Marion, it goes so fast.
Yeah, but I really love what you say about giving yourself grace, because to your point, like if you're fully present in either situation, so let's say there's just two, of course there's more situations, but let's say between being mom and being at work, right? Just two examples. And if you're fully present in each of those, if you are listening to your ingredients, if you've got a great team around you at work and you've got a great team at home, right? If an emergency occurs in either situation, it's okay, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can be fully present because you're not alone. It's
Mm-hmm.
I really love what you said about surrounding yourself. And by the way, it doesn't just mean, of course, a husband, of course, but also friends,
Other
right?
moms.
Other
Yeah.
moms. And
Yeah.
yeah, really powerful words.
Well, and
that
thank
you
you.
just
And I'm
shared.
sorry to my team for not saying that before you, but yes, I have an amazing, amazing
Yeah.
team. And to be able to rush home to a sick kid,
Right.
our wellness in the schools lived through the death of one of our a very good friend of mine who was our graphic designer and a board member. And for me to be able to go and sit with her during chemo and that my team really take the lead and take over, I'm so grateful still. I mean, Susan passed almost 6 years ago. I'm so grateful to them still for that time I had with Susan. So yeah, I have such a great team. You asked me some questions about I don't even know, because my team is doing it for me and with
amazing.
me and sharing back. And yeah, so important to
Well,
be surrounded by strong teams of friends, of family, of work peers.
yeah, but it's not an accident. So, okay, so here we are, and you have clearly, there's been quite a life that you have lived, Nancy, and hearing all.
Still living, Marion, still living.
Yes, but to this point, excuse me for making it sound that way. Of course, quite a life you are living, and throughout the course of this, there's just been so many successes. I mean, just from beginning to now and continuing. So, and so many different types of successes and wins. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I get to ask you the burning question, Nancy Easton, how do you define success?
See, I should have listened. Anyway.
No.
So I have thought about that question. I figured you would ask it, given the title of your podcast. I have thought about it, and I was stumped for a while. I think different stages in your life, you define it differently. But I think a thread for me has always been to make a difference in the world. And I really, really, I think that without sounding sort of Pollyanna, I think even as I said, as a young kid, when I was 13 and seeing the disparities between me and my track teammates, for some reason I had that calling to do something that's going to make a difference. And I think I carry that through raising a family, through running a nonprofit, even if it's not directly related. I think that is so important. And I sort of came to it right before the call. I'm like, that's what it is. Because, I think people, success is, making a lot of money and buying that first home and all of that. And I'm actually incredibly fortunate that never crossed my mind. Clearly, I'm running a nonprofit. It just,
Right.
Thankful to those parents who were teenage parents almost, who worked very hard to put me through college. I never had college loans. So I could go and start off on my own, and it was just me for a long time, and I could support me on a teacher salary and what have you.
Yeah.
So I think I never thought about that being a success. It was really wanting to make a difference. And, from our Declaration of Independence, there's life. We're given, or life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I actually feel, and I heard this somewhere else. I don't want to say that I've coined this, but we're all in this country, in our Declaration of Independence, given life, we're given liberty, we're given freedom in this country. I sort of feel like the pursuit of happiness, and again, I heard this from someone else. We've interpreted it wrong in the last decade. It's everyone's happiness, not just the selfish happiness. And I have literally been blessed to feel that and know that all my life. The pursuit of happiness is so that, the person who's cleaning the streets deserves as much happiness as the person on Wall Street. And I feel like we've totally forgotten that, and we've become so selfish, and therefore huge disparities in our country, like huge. And the loss of our middle class is going to be the detriment to this country. I love my country, and I'm quoting the Declaration of Independence because I love that. But if there's no other message that I leave today, it's that we all deserve the pursuit of happiness. And whatever part I can do to help others be happy, I did get a happy gene, and I'm born privileged. I'm so privileged. It's easy to be happy when there's food on your plate every day, and you can a roof over your head every day. So I think everyone deserves that, and whatever I can do to help all of us have the pursuit of happiness. And for me, it's with a nourishing meal and an active day at school. So
that's beautiful. And I thank you. That you've made me really get very emotional there. And I love our country as well. And I just want to share because I feel like it's important to add to what you said, if that's okay. I just feel, I know a lot of people who have a roof over their heads and food, and they're not happy. And I know a lot of people who don't have those things, and they're very happy. So, it's a beautiful, Nancy, that you see that you just I know you're saying it was somebody else you heard this from, but thank you for paying it forward.
No, it really resonated with me. And I do want to hear more. Yeah.
The pursuit of happiness, it really, just to add on, it should have nothing to do with any of that. It's internal. It's something we could all share and celebrate together. So thank you for that reminder. It's really powerful, and I can't wait for everybody to hear this. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, of course. And Marion, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think I told you, when I saw you were doing a podcast, I'm like, that is so great that Marion's doing it. And I loved your theme. And so when you asked me to be on it, it was a true honor. And it's so nice to just reconnect with you. I don't know if the listeners know, or you're telling them, that we met when our boys were playing football together.
Yeah, our boys were playing football together, and the coach was fired, and we had to fix a wrong. So we got right to it.
Yeah, we came together, principled, right? We came together for the pursuit of his happiness.
Yes, that's right. Right.
It was wrong what was done. Yeah,
it was. And so now here we are, and it's the best. And I'm so happy to be reconnected with you. But I do want to ask one thing before we take off.
Sure.
Where can everybody find you?
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
So wellnessintheschools.org is our website. And oh my God, at Wits in Schools is, I should know this. Oh my goodness. Is our, if you start with wellnessintheschools.org,
Yeah,
you can go to our LinkedIn. You can find my LinkedIn from
great.
then. I'm Nancy Easton. I'm Nancy Easton on Instagram. And I'm looking it up now. I'm
Well,
pathetic.
I'll share all
Um,
of this in the show notes too,
okay.
and when we post it and everything. So, but wellness in schools in the
Wellness in
schools.org.
the schools.
Please,
Yes, plural.
everybody, go check it out right away, because it's unbelievable what Nancy and her team have built over the years, and the future is bright knowing that you guys are involved in this effort. So thank you for all that you
Thank
do.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Marion. I really
I
appreciate
love your
it.
kitten.
Yeah, she's jumping up. She's ready. She's done.
So cute. She's been
Uh,
very good.
she's
Happy
been
birthday, by
amazing.
the way, again.
Yeah. Oh,
All right.
thank you. Thank you. Take care. Happy
You
holidays.
too. You too. Bye.